Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Navari Eden collection. Navari are a microbrand based in Germany, and the Eden collection will be available on Kickstarter.com from the 31st of August with an early bird launch price of €899, which is $999 respectively. The Eden collection is available in the following colour options from left to right: Obsidian, Sakura, Smithsonite and Pistachio respectively. Of the four colour options, I think the Smithsonite version is the best looking. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So, all four colour versions of the Eden collection come in a solid wooden watch box, and the solid wooden watch box is housed inside this Navari branded outer black cardboard box. So one removes the lid, which is a snug fit to the base, pulls down the flap, and as you can see, inside the inner solid wooden watch box is protected by fabric to a good standard. So I'll take it out and show it to you. So this is the watch box itself. Now, immediately one gets the impression that the Navari Eden is a high quality piece. To clarify, this is the kind of high quality solid wooden watch box one would expect with a high tip piece costing €10,000 plus. But the Navari Eden is a mid tip piece made in Germany at €899, and they deserve full credit for this because it is beautifully finished. The lid, which is a hinged lid, is white lacquer finish to a very high standard, and we've got contrasting silver stripes and also the Navari text logo in silver. And then on the front of the hinge lid we've got the Navari text emblem in silver. The base has a matte finish to it. It's upholstered with grey vinyl to a good standard, stainless steel hinges. Good attention to detail because the base is upholstered with a grey fabric panel, and this fabric panel serves a purpose because it prevents a solid wooden watch box sliding around on a polished or lacquered desktop or tabletop and prevents it scuffing and scratching it. So hinge lid is spring loaded, it snaps shut with a nice positive click because it has a steel lock, and it also opens with a nice positive click. Now the underside, as you can see, is lined with contrasting violet velour fabric to a good standard, flawless stitching to the interior, and the base is also fully upholstered with violet velour fabric to a good standard. There's a cutout in the centre, and that houses a padded pillow cushion. I like this profiling. It's similar to the profiling that Rolex use on their padded pillow cushions, and they work very well because this can expand and contract, and it means that this will fit a bracelet from a 6-inch up to an 8-inch wrist size, so plenty of adjustment on it. Very good quality upholstery to it in contrasting violet velour fabric, and it's a snug fit into the base. So I want to give due credit to Navari here because this is the kind of presentation one expects to see on €10,000 plus price point pieces. One doesn't see this on mid-tier pieces. It's a fantastic solid wooden watch box, very well finished. Now, in addition to that, each of the colour versions come with matching leather watch rolls, as you can see, and very well executed. We've got the Navari text logo, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and these are very well executed. 2 stainless steel poppers. The interior is fully upholstered with contrasting velour fabric, which has a suede effect to it, and also we have the Navari emblem embossed on this stitched panel. 2 stainless steel poppers on the left and the right hand flanks, and they snap together with a nice positive click. So this is suitable for 6 to 8-inch bracelet sizes, and it does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping. And it's nice to see these colour coded. So to clarify, this one is colour coded to match the pistachio green version. This one, which is the Smithsonite version, as you can see, contrasting velour fabric interior again. And this one matches the Smithsonite version, which is the blue version, as you can see. The next one is for the Sakura version, grey on the exterior. Interior is contrasting velour fabric again. And this one is for the Smithsonite version, which is pink, as you can see. And lastly, the Obsidian version. So it's black, interior contrasting light blue velour fabric. And again, this one matches the Obsidian version. So nice to get the colour coded watch rolls for each of the respective colours of the Eden collection. Now I want to show you something else which is good attention to detail, so just bear with me. This is the outer cardboard watch box base, and it has this fabric panel which is removable, which is good. It's also lined with foam on every side of it, and this is good because again it does a good job of protecting the solid wooden watch box. But in the back of it you can see it has this compartment, and it houses the items which I'll show you. So I'll just take it out and show you the items. So we have 3 items in that back compartment. Now this one is a cardboard envelope, and as you can see, it's branded with the Navari emblem and Navari text logo, and one withdraws this wallet, as you can see, and it opens rather like a book. And then the underside, they have printed, your Navari watch is covered by a 2-year factory warranty. And I want to give due credit to Navari here, because often mid-tier microbrands, and to remind you, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. Often mid-tier microbrands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is excellent, and they deserve full credit for that. But you can see in the base there's a cutout which houses 2 items. And what I like about it is the attention to detail, because you can see there are stripes and it's in silver, which is metallic. And this complements the continuity of design, because you can see on the bracelet clasp, we also have those milled stripes and the Navari emblem, and it's silver, as you can see. So what I like is the continuity of design throughout, even down to the packaging. We have this silver metallic finish and the stripes, rather like the clasp. So inside this is your warranty card. So you have the unique serial number of the piece. It's also dated with the date of purchase, and most importantly, it's signed by the watchmaker. So to clarify, Navari Eden watches are not made in China. They are made in Germany. They are assembled in Germany, quality control inspected in Germany, the movements are regulated in Germany, and the watchmaker that actually assembles the Navari Eden watches in Germany signs the warranty card himself. So this is excellent quality control, and this is a credit to Navari, because they could have taken the less expensive option that many mid-tier microbrands do, between €500 and €5,000, and assemble the watches in China with lower quality Chinese quality control. But they don't do that. They take the more expensive option of assembling the watches in Germany. The quality control takes place in Germany, the regulation of the calibers takes place in Germany, and the watchmaker signs the warranty card to verify that. Quality control is very high as a result. In the base, there's also a cutout below the upper cutout, and that houses the brushed satin finish stainless steel warranty card. Now again, this is the continuity of design. This is the presentation I really like about this piece. You can see it is engraved with the Navari emblem to a very high standard, but we've also got milled stripes and a metallic brushed satin finish. Now this matches the clasp. As you can see, it has the same, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. We have the same Navari emblem and milled stripes on the body of the micro adjustment clasp, which is called the EMS micro adjustment clasp, and you can see this is the level of quality we're looking at. We've got the same finishing on the steel warranty card, rather than just using a cardboard warranty card or a plastic warranty card, which are the less expensive default options. So again, we have space to fill in the serial number, date of purchase and the name of the owner, and also details the watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is excellent. So presentation is fantastic, and these are the kind of refinements, the kind of presentation. You can see we have a lower cutout in the base, which is foam, and then an upper cutout for the certificate of warranty, as you can see, which goes on the top, and it fits inside this booklet. It's fantastic. Now in addition to that, one also gets this International Owner's Manual. This is a clear, concise owner's instruction manual. It's bilingual, both in German and also in English, and it details every aspect of the Navari Eden, even including the micro adjustment clasp. So as I've detailed, this piece features an EMS micro adjustment clasp. EMS stands for Eden Micro Adjustment System. They have designed it and made it themselves in Germany, and I'll test that, but this is bilingual, clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and also German, and it is an excellent quality owner's instruction manual. And they deserve full credit, because they've also translated it into a plethora of other languages as well as German and English, but it's a very well written owner's instruction manual, clear and concise. And lastly, one also gets this book, which is excellent. This is the Navari Eden Collection book. And inside it details everything about the brand. It gives you the origin of the name, the inspiration for Navari. Also, we have the 4 different versions. Now, as you can see, the retail price will be €1,249, which is $1,419 US, or 1,059 British pounds. But however, the Kickstarter launch price on the 31st of August will be much less than that. So the retail will be €1,249, but they are doing the Kickstarter early bird launch price at €899, which is significantly less than the €1,249 retail price. That's for all colour versions: Obsidian, Smithsonite, Pistachio and Sakura respectively. Clear, concise, high definition images. We've also got the specification of the piece. Also details the Lume and also the EMS clasp, which I've detailed. Also the details such as the bracelet taper and also the case finishing. It details every aspect of the design, all the elements that have gone into the Eden collection. And this is a very interesting read because you can see the detail, such as the Sakura version, which is like a Grand Seiko dial. It details the origin of the design, the attention to detail, and the design elements of every single aspect of the different colour versions: Obsidian, Smithsonite, Pistachio and Sakura respectively. And it is an interesting read because you can actually specifically see the design elements and the reasoning behind why they've selected each of the designs. So you can see also it details the clasp, the bracelet finishing, and it's just fantastic to see everything detailed in such high definition pictures with such explanation. And of course this is good because you can understand the work that's gone into the EMS clasp, for example, which is a unique design. This is not simply a copy of a glide lock style clasp or a ratcheting mechanism clasp which has been made in China. Navari came up with this EMS clasp themselves. It's an original design. They designed it in Germany. They made it in Germany. And you can see the attention to detail, the finishing is exceptional. This is fantastic. And it's only 5mm thick. Bracelet finishing is detailed. The bevels on the bracelet are detailed. Every aspect. And this is a fantastic read because it details the entire Eden collection, even down to the choice of the materials they've used, the stainless steel, the regulation of the calibers by their watchmakers in Germany, why they selected the Solita SW200-1. Every single choice is detailed in this book. Very interesting read. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 40mm case diameter, we have a 45mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 9.9mm and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push EMS micro adjustment clasp. So as I've detailed, EMS stands for Eden Micro Adjustment System. This is an original design to Navari. It's not a copy, it's not an homage, and it's not a replica of other micro adjustment clasp. It's not a glide lock style clasp, and it isn't a Chinese made ratcheting mechanism micro adjustment clasp. This EMS clasp is a unique design and I'll be testing it. Quality of the finishing is stellar. Beautiful longitudinal brush satin finishing to the body. The Navari emblem is engraved with high definition engraving. Also we've got stripes which are milled into the body, nice large mirror polished bevels which mark the transition between the brush satin finished body and the brush satin finished flanks. 2-button push triggers are mirror polished and oval shaped, finished to perfection. The undercut to the flanks is deburred and chamfered very well, no sharp edges. Top edge doesn't have a sharp edge, low edge doesn't have a sharp edge, and the 4 corners have been deburred. It's very low profile. One of my favourite aspects, which I'll show you in the wrist shot, is this is incredibly low profile. This is actually thinner than the glide lock clasp used on my Rolex Starbucks. This is only 5mm thick. It is incredible. 10.5mm of it micro adjustment, which is good, but only 5mm thick. It's a very thin, low profile clasp. The thinnest micro adjustment clasp I have ever seen, and I've reviewed over 500 watches on my channel. This is incredible. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished Dolphin handset and the silver mirror polished applied indices. So the Dolphin hands are faceted, they're not just flat, and also they're a contrast of mirror polishing and also brush satin finishing. That also complements the 2 finishes of the applied indices. They are both brush satin finished and mirror polished. To put the Dolphin hands and the applied indices into perspective, what we're looking at is Grand Seiko level finishing to the applied indices and Grand Seiko level finishing to the Dolphin handsets. Visually, this does remind me of 2 pieces: the Grand Seiko Heritage, which I previously reviewed, and also the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41, which I previously reviewed and also owned. And I can tell you the 2 inspirations of this piece really are distilled or condensed down into this Navari Eden, the Grand Seiko Heritage, and also the Oyster Perpetual 41. It's like a combination of the two, but what I like about it is the quality of the finishing, the execution of the applied indices and the dolphin hands is Grand Seiko level. But we're not looking at a Grand Seiko price point piece here. This is €899 in the mid-tier. It is fantastic to see this level of finishing to the indices and the handset. Of the four colour options, Obsidian, Sakura, Smithsonite and Pistachio respectively, this Smithsonite version, which is rather like Tiffany blue, is my personal favourite. The dial has a nice matte finish to it. It's not shiny and reflective as per a glossy enamel dial, and it doesn't have a sunburst finish to it or a metallic sheen. It's got a matte finish, but the colour tone is beautiful. What I like about it is the quality of the printing. Black minute ticks on the chapter ring are high definition and crisp. The font for Navari is sharp and crisp. It's high definition. It's not too thick. It's not blurry. Automatic is also printed with high definition crisp printing. And I like the attention to detail because either side of the double applied indices at the 6 o'clock position we have made in Germany. So to remind you, Navari watches, unlike many other mid-tier microbrands between €500 and €5,000, their watches are not made in China. They're not assembled in China. Their watches are made in Germany. And they meet the legal criteria for stating that, rather like Swiss made. So to clarify, with Swiss made pieces, in order to legally be allowed to print Swiss made on the dial at 6 o'clock, 60% of a watch's value needs to be added in Switzerland. So for example, in reality what that could mean is 40% of the watch's value could be Chinese made. You could have a Chinese made piece made from Chinese parts and simply use a Swiss Sellita SW200-1 and then assemble the Chinese part watch with a Sellita SW200-1 in Switzerland. Legally that would meet the criteria for having Swiss made on the dial, because one could argue the watch has 60% of the value added in Switzerland simply by assembling the Chinese part watch in Switzerland and using a Swiss made movement such as the SW200-1. With made in Germany it's more strict. This watch has to actually be made in Germany. It cannot just be assembled in China, or the parts cannot be made in China and then simply put together or assembled in Germany and then print made in Germany on the dial. This watch is actually made in Germany, and when it says made in Germany on the dial, this is not a marketing ploy like Swiss made with 60% of the value of the piece, a Chinese watch assembled in Switzerland with a Swiss movement to satisfy the legal criteria. When it says made in Germany on the dial of a German watch, it really is made in Germany. And they deserve full credit for that because, of course, this does increase production costs per piece and therefore decreases profit margin per piece. It's the more expensive option. Navari could have made this watch in China and of course used the Sellita SW200-1, case it in Germany without made in Germany on the dial. That would have maximised their profit margin per piece, but they've taken the more expensive option. The watch is assembled in Germany, the movements are regulated in Germany, and the watchmaker regulates the calibers in Germany. The movement is Swiss made by Sellita. It's fantastic. So, made in Germany on the dial, they are right to be proud of that. They're right to print it on all 4 versions. So, flat sapphire crystal, AR coating. The bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, concentric CNC lathe tool machined, flat profile to it rather than being domed profile. Nice, large, mirror polished chamfer, and I really like the way the large mirror polished chamfer catches the light. It deburrs it so there's no sharp edge on the flat profile to the solid stainless steel bezel. Beautiful lustres to the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the top of it, and then we've got this large mirror polished chamfer which is fantastic, and then the edge of it has concentric CNC lathe tool machining again. So we've got 3 different finishes. Flat profile on the top is concentric CNC lathe tool machine to a satin finish, large mirror polished chamfer, and then we've got concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the edge. Quality of the finishing to the bezel is stellar. Flat sapphire crystal has a nice bevel on the edge of it which projects above the bezel and it catches the light, very aesthetically pleasing. Top of the case, which is solid 316L grade stainless steel, is longitudinally brushed satin finish to perfection. Nice large mirror polished bevel which marks the transition between the top of the case and the flanks. The thing I like about this case above all else is the low profile slender profile to the flanks. It's not a thick slab sided piece. And what I like about this piece above all else is how thin it is. This is only 9.9 millimeters. They've made the correct decision after correct decision. Flat sapphire crystal versus a box top hat crystal. Flat stainless steel screw down case back. The other correct decision they've made is how slender the flanks are. This is like a Rolex flank on a case, and it's actually lower profile than the Oyster Perpetual 41, which this does look visually similar to. It's got that very low profile flank. So it looks good, but also feels good. It's only 9.9, but visually it looks very aesthetically pleasing because it's got a very slender flank, but also this large mirror polished bevel, which marks the transition, also visually reduces the meat. It looks like a thinner case than it actually is. The mirror polished bevel on the edge of the case is Rolex level. That's the level of finishing we're looking at. So to put this into perspective, the mirror polished facets on this case, the bezel and also the bevels, they are Grand Seiko Zaratsu level finishing, or alternatively, one could say Rolex level with the Oyster Perpetual 41. That is the level of finishing we're looking at. Grand Seiko or Rolex level, high tier level, 10,000 plus euro level. That's what I'm talking about. The luster to the flanks is some of the finest satin finishing I have ever seen. To put the brushed satin finishing into perspective, this fine-grained satin finish is the kind of fine-grained satin finishing one expects to see on a Rolex, Tudor or Omega piece, and at this price point it is incredible to see. €899, this is Rolex level brushed satin finishing. There's no discernible difference in the quality of the brushed satin finishing to the head of this piece and on a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41, which I've previously owned. I can tell you, the fine-grained satin finishing is Rolex level. It is Oyster Perpetual 41 level. Fantastic. So let's look at the bracelet in detail. Now, I want to give due credit to Navari here because above all else, this Oyster style bracelet is something they do to an incredible level. This is one of the very best Oyster style bracelets I have ever seen on a watch. I've reviewed over 500 watches on my channel and a plethora of watches from low tier to mid tier to high tier with Oyster style bracelets. To put this into perspective, make no mistake, this is Rolex level. Now, what I like about it above all else is the large bevels on the top edge and the lower edge of the flanks. There are only two other micro brands that use large bevels like this and are capable of finishing an Oyster style bracelet to this high level, which is Rolex level. Monta is one, and the other one is Trasca. They also make very high quality Oyster style bracelets. Monta also use very large bevels, and that deletes the sharp edge on the top edge and the low edge of the flanks. Another brand that does it is Trasca. They also use large bevels. Trasca also deburr and chamfer their Oyster style bracelets to a very high level. They are two of the very best micro brands, Monta and Trasca, and of course the Oyster style bracelets are two of the very best in the watchmaking industry. This is the third. Navari have got it correct because brushed satin finishing has a beautiful luster. This is exactly the same quality of luster to the brushed satin finishing one sees on a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 or a Tudor Black Bay 58, or alternatively an Omega Seamaster or Omega Speedmaster. That is the level of brushed satin finishing we're looking at, Rolex, Tudor and Omega level. It's fantastic, and this is the difference between a piece which is made in Germany and a piece which is made in China. Chinese made pieces, regardless of whether they are low tier, 0 to 500, or mid tier, 500 to 5,000 euro price point, they cannot attain this level of brushed satin finishing. This is Grand Seiko level finishing, or Rolex, Tudor, or Omega finishing. Brushed satin finishing is stellar. The mirror polishing to the bevels is absolutely fantastic, and it deletes the sharp edge on the top edge and the low edge. This enhances comfort level, it enhances feel good factor, and it means it doesn't pull arm hairs, it doesn't feel sharp, doesn't scratch the wrist. It's fantastic. 20 to 16 is the perfection personified taper, so they've made the correct decision. Now you'll know this from my previous reviews. For a 40mm head of the piece, 20 to 16 is the industry standard for good reason. The alternative industry standard is 22 to 18, which is good for larger pieces such as 41 and 42. But for a 39 or a 40 head of the piece, 20 to 16 cannot be beaten. It is perfection personified. It deletes the meat from the bracelet, which reduces the heft, but also visually has an aggressive taper from 20 at the lugs down to 16 at the clasp. Visually it looks good, also feels good on wrist. The thing I like about this bracelet is how thin the links are. This is actually very nice because on many Oyster style bracelets, the links are simply too thick. And this is a mistake that often mid-tier micro brands make. they use oyster style bracelets. They use the correct perfection personified 20 to 16 taper, but they make the mistake, which is a fundamental mistake, of the links are far too thick. These links are nice and thin, and they're just like the oyster links used on a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 36 and an Oyster Perpetual 41 in terms of profiling, how thin the links are. The benefit of deleting that meat, the thickness, is that this means that this feels very smooth, very silky on wrist, because it articulates freely, but it doesn't feel like a bulky oyster style bracelet which is made in China. This is the level of refinement I like with this German made piece. So let's check the execution. Male end links. Now, subjectively, one could be critical of the male end links, but in this case, I'm not going to be critical. So why is that? Well, this piece has a compact 45 lug to lug. The sweet spot is 48. You will know that from my previous reviews, and I'll clarify this in the wrist shot. 48 is this perfect sweet spot. This is 3mm below. Therefore, it's a compact lug to lug. With a compact lug to lug of 45mm, which is 3mm below the sweet spot, male end links are actually beneficial because they extend the effective lug to lug. If this used female pivotal end links, I would say yes, that would be the correct choice for a 48 lug to lug, but on a 45 lug to lug piece, male end links are good because they extend that compact lug to lug. The effective lug to lug becomes closer to 48. It's correct. So let's check the articulation. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. No play whatsoever. This is fantastic. This is stellar. This is Tudor level. This is like the articulation on a Tudor Black Bay 58. That's the level of smoothness we're looking at. This is incredible. This gives me the feeling that this is a mid-tier piece, but at the upper end of the mid-tier, €5,000 level. We're not looking at the lower end of the mid-tier, which is 500. And at €899, this is incredible. The quality control, build quality and tolerances of this are some of the best I've seen. I've reviewed over 500 watches, and I can tell you this really feels like the articulation on a Tudor Black Bay 58. Alternatively, one could say on a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41. That's how smooth it is. No play whatsoever. No lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play. Yet articulates freely. Doesn't feel stiff or kink. The balance is perfected. The spring bar going through the end links is a good tight fit. So the end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece with the male end links. But the pin going through the end link in the oyster style bracelet going through the centre of the end link. The interference friction fit is perfected. It's fantastic. It's one of the best I've experienced. Beautiful luster to the top side and the underside, and also on the flanks, as you can see. Nice large bevels on the edge of every link, and they've used very fine 1.2mm screw pins, which is good, and I'm pleased to see they've used screw pins rather than production cost cutting measure of push pins or pins and collars, which is excellent. Bracelet articulates freely. Doesn't feel stiff or kink. This is silky smooth articulation. To put this into perspective, this articulates as well as a Rolex Oyster bracelet or a Tudor Black Bay Oyster style bracelet with rivet links, or alternatively an Omega Seamaster bracelet. That's the level of articulation. Build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are there. The only other two microbrands that could rival this or equal this in terms of build quality and articulation are Monta and Trasca. They also make similar high quality oyster style bracelets which are Rolex Tudor or Grand Seiko level. This is equal to those. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. No play whatsoever in any direction, nice and tight, but doesn't feel stiff or kink. The balance is perfected. This is fantastic. It is stellar. Wonderful. So, beautiful luster to the top side, underside and flanks, large bevels which delete the sharp edges. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, flows nicely. This really is like a Monta oyster style bracelet or a Trasca oyster style bracelet. It's Rolex level. Let's check it for play. It's not sloppy, doesn't rattle. Excellent. Silky smooth, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but doesn't have excess play. Let's check the other side for play. Again, no play whatsoever. Longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play, but articulates freely. Fantastic. One of the best oyster style bracelets I've ever seen. So let's look at the clasp in detail. Now, as I've detailed, Navari deserves special credit here because unlike many mid-tier micro brands, they haven't taken the less expensive option of simply purchasing a micro adjustment clasp. And you'll all be familiar with the micro adjustment clasp such as San Martin are using, for example, and a plethora of other micro brands such as Christopher Ward, which has now become a brand rather than a micro brand. But they all use that similar style of ratcheting mechanism clasp, which has two flat head screws in the flanks. And that's the giveaway that the clasps are made by the same factory and simply branded by the respective micro brand or brand. This is not made in China and it doesn't have two flathead screws in the flanks. This is an original design and it's made in Germany by Navari. So this is called the EMS clasp. EMS stands for Eden Micro Adjustment System. So I'll show you the interior. On the underside you can see it's different to other ratcheting mechanisms you will have seen. So we've got grooves which are machined into the internal left and right hand flanks, and then the centre section has a spring-loaded trigger which engages. Now you can see in the centre of the body we have a groove which is milled into it, and the slider slides up and down the groove, and this keeps the alignment correct, so this is good. The trigger is heavily sprung loaded, but it's recessed below the profiling of the undercuts to the flanks, so you're not going to accidentally press it with wrist pressure and deploy it. 10.5mm of micro adjustment is excellent on the fly adjustment. 10.5 gives a good full one link of adjustment. Now the thing I like about it above all else, this is only 5mm thick. This is actually thinner than the Rolex Glide Lock clasp used on my Rolex Starbucks. That is fantastic. Just look how thin it is. This is the thinnest micro adjustment clasp I have ever seen. And I've reviewed over 500 watches on my channel. I've reviewed a plethora of watches with micro adjustment clasp. Low tier pieces from 0 to 500. Mid-tier pieces from 500 to 5,000 euro with micro adjustment clasp. This is better than the Christopher Ward micro adjustment clasp they're using, and that's more expensive. That's used on pieces such as the C65, which is a much more expensive mid-tier piece. This is lower profile. It's lower profile than the Rolex Glide Lock. 10.5mm of micro adjustment is excellent. 5mm of thickness is fantastic. This is a credit to Navari, and above all else, this tells me this piece is undervalued at €899. This is the kind of micro adjustment class one would expect to see on a high tier piece costing €10,000+. That's the level of finishing, refinement and quality control and build quality we are looking at. Stellar. Now let's look at the internals. So the body is solid mill 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished to the top side, underside and flanks. Now I want to give due credit to Navari again. They signed the internals, as you can see, with Navari's text logo with high definition engraving. Quality of the mirror polishing to this is high tier level. This is €10,000+ level finishing. The thing about the gauge of it is it's very thin. Now this is something they've done to a very high level, because often the milled internals of a micro adjustment class, they're very thick and bulky. And of course they are reliable and robust as a result. They're very durable, but the problem with them being so thick and bulky, the internals, is when you close it, when you fold it up, it then makes the clasp very bulky and very thick. For example, it will be 8mm thick. This is only 5, because the body is very low profile, but the actual internals are also very thin, you can see. And this is the kind of solid milled internals one would expect on a high tier piece. This is Rolex, Tudor or Omega level finishing. No sharp edges to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks. Centre section has been deburred and chamfered, no sharp corners, and the quality of the mirror polishing is stellar. They could have reduced production costs per piece if they had simply brush satin finished it, and often solid milled clasp, the internals are brush satin finished because it lowers production costs per piece. Mirror polishing is more expensive. Every facet of the internals is mirror polished. The internals, which are milled, they're mirror polished. The flanks are mirror polished, the top edge and the low edge. Every facet is mirror polished to the same high level finish. Also very good attention to detail. Now one usually only sees this on very high quality pieces which are Zaratsu polished, such as Grand Seiko pieces, because we've got this large mirror polished bevel. And this is machined into the undercuts to the flanks of the body. And this large mirror polished bevel deletes the sharp edge. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. You will all be familiar with a micro adjustment clasp or a milled clasp, where there's a sharp edge on the undercuts to the flanks, and that diminishes the comfort level and feel good factor because that sharp edge scratches the wrist. It feels abrasive, it feels rough. But Navari have machined a large bevel into it, and then what they do is they mirror polish the bevel. And this deletes the sharp edge on the internal of the milled clasp, and that means that it feels smooth. It feels silky smooth against the wrist. It doesn't feel sharp, doesn't feel rough, doesn't feel abrasive. And both the left and the right hand flank have that large bevel. And this is the kind of refinement I look for with a mid-tier piece. This is high tier level finishing. Quality of the finishing to the body of this clasp is fantastic. No sharp edges whatsoever. So let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. No play whatsoever, nice and tight, friction interference fit, doesn't have lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play, and yet articulates freely. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, excellent. No play whatsoever, nice and tight, perfect tolerances. Right hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. No play whatsoever, this is stellar. This is equal quality to a Rolex, Tudor or Omega clasp in terms of quality control, build quality, tolerances and finishing. The tolerances of the push of the pins, left hand pin, centre hinge pin, right hand hinge pin are all excellent. Interference friction fit on all three pins. This is one of the best micro adjustment clasp regardless of price point I have experienced. It is stellar. So let's check the micro adjustment mechanism. So 10.5mm of micro adjustment, ratcheting mechanism, heavily sprung loaded, nice loud audible clicks, feels good. Pressing in the pusher, you've got to press it in lightly. Now this is what I like about it. This is more refined than other micro adjustment clasps. With the trigger, they've got the spring loaded resistance perfected. One doesn't have to press this in as hard as on a Christopher Ward micro adjustment clasp. With that, you have to press in the trigger or button with your thumbnail or index fingernail very hard because it's heavily sprung loaded. This one feels lighter. It feels more refined. Clicks in with nice positive heavy clicks. I love the sound of it. I love the feeling of it. Good, solid, heavy indexing. Feels reliable and robust. When it's on its absolute minimum of 10.5, it doesn't rattle. It's not sloppy. This is better. Refinement is good. Quality control is good. Build quality is good. Now, when it's fully deployed, let's check it for play. Again, the dimensions are correct, the tolerances are correct because the width of the 16mm taper on the bracelet perfectly matches the 16mm internal dimension of the body. It's not sloppy, it doesn't rattle. And this is the level of refinement one gets with a made in Germany piece versus made in China. The tolerances are tight, the quality control is high. Feels good, articulates freely, ratcheting works well, trigger feels smooth. This is fantastic. I think this is as good as a Rolex Glide Lock clasp. That is the highest level of compliments I can pay a watch. This is better than the Christopher Ward micro adjustment clasp. It's better than the Trasker micro adjustment clasp. It's better than the Monta micro adjustment clasp in terms of refinement. This is a Rolex Glide Lock level in terms of quality. Stellar. I like the feeling of it. I like the sound of it. No play in it. Nice, heavy, loud, audible clicks. It clicks in with a nice smooth action to it and it deploys really smoothly. I really like it. It's just fantastic. And above all else, as I'll show you in the wrist shots, the benefit is it's only 5mm. It's thinner than a Rolex Glide Lock. It's the very best it's the very best micro adjustment clasp I've experienced. 5mm thick. The EMS clasp is an original design. Navari deserve credit. It's incredible to see that at this price point. Let's look at the case back in detail. So, solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, concentric CNC lathe tool machining to it, which refracts the light. The engraving of the Navari emblem is high definition and crisp. It doesn't feel rough. Now, I want to give due credit here because we're not looking at a forged case back which is hydraulically pressed. This is a concentric CNC lathe tool machine case back, and then what they've done is they've engraved it rather than hydraulically pressing and embossing the Navari emblem. Now, with other engraved case backs with high definition engraving like this, and I'll use the Steinhardt Ocean 139 as an example, that has Sidon, the Greek god of the sea, and a seahorse engraved as the Steinhardt emblem. That looks good visually, but it doesn't feel good. It feels rough, it feels sharp and scratchy, and that diminishes the comfort level and the feel good factor. So the Steinhardt Ocean 1 caseback looks good, but the truth is it doesn't feel good. It actually feels rough. This looks good, but it also feels good. The emblem doesn't feel sharp. It's been deburred and chamfered very well. It doesn't feel rough, but you can see the definition is stellar. Around the circumference, we've got the specification and reference number of the piece, and also the serial number engraved. Absolutely beautiful quality to the engraving. Very low profile. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered well. No sharp edges, no burrs. Concentric CNC lathe machining is fantastic. Now, above all else, what I like about it is this is very low profile. This is one of the thinnest screw down stainless steel case backs I've seen with a 100 metre water resistant piece. I would expect this kind of low profile flat case back on a quartz powered or mechanical manual wind movement piece, not an automatic with a rotor, because needless to say, an automatic with a rotor needs additional clearance. The calibre is thicker, and of course one has to have clearance between the underside of the case back and the rotor to prevent the rotor fouling it. But you can see this is the kind of flat case back one would expect with a quartz or a manual wind piece, not an automatic. It's not a deep bubble back case back, but yet it provides 100 metres of hermetic seal. Finishing is stellar, profiling is stellar, and of course this reduces the thickness of this piece down to only 9.9. It is a very low profile piece. Fantastic. Underside to the head of the piece is finished to the highest levels. Concentric CNC lathe tool machine case, and as I've detailed, what I like about this piece is the refinement, because if you look at the left and the right hand flanks, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on this because I want you to study it in detail. If you look at the left and the right hand flanks, you can see there is this large mirror polished bevel which is machined on the full length from the tip of the lug down to the tip of the lug. And this large mirror polished bevel, which marks the transition between the flanks and the underside, this deletes the sharp edge to the case. So rather than having a crisp edge which is razor sharp and therefore scratches the wrist, it has this large bevel, and this deletes the sharp edge on the undercuts to the flank. This really enhances comfort level and feel good factor. So to put this into perspective, the quality of the mirror polishing to the bevel on the undercuts is like Grand Seiko Zaratsu level polishing, or alternatively Rolex, Tudor or Omega level. Actually, I would say it's superior to Rolex, because Rolex cases such as the Oyster Perpetual 41, which I previously owned and reviewed, that has a more crisp, sharp edge. This large bevel is rather like a Grand Seiko Heritage case because it has that large mirror polishing bevel to it. So in terms of comfort level, it's enhanced. And it's on the left and the right hand flanks. We have this large bevel, and it looks good but also feels good. It deletes the sharp edge one often gets on the undercuts to the flanks. Finishing to the head of the piece is high tier level. Make no mistake, what you're looking at is €10,000+ high tier level finishing to the head of the piece. It's stellar. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot. Now, bracelet does fit my 8-inch wrist, which is good, but it's a snug fit to get across a glove, so I'm just going to remove it to facilitate getting it across my hand easily. As you can see, now I haven't sized the bracelet, and I can easily slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. So as you can see, this bracelet, which is oyster style, will fit from a 6-inch minimum up to a maximum 8.5-inch wrist size. I can easily slide an index finger beneath it. This indicates on maximum extension on the EMS micro adjustment clasp, when the 10.5 is at its absolute maximum adjustment, 8.5 is the ultimate. There are enough removable links on the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size. So this will fit from a 6 up to an 8.5-inch, and of course we do have the 10.5mm of micro adjustment, which is beneficial. The only subjective criticism I have, or enhancement they could make, is adding a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 o'clock side of the oyster style bracelet, because sometimes adding or subtracting one full link from an oyster style bracelet doesn't give the desired fit. A half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 side is beneficial because, for example, if you need to remove one link, you can remove a half link from the 6 and a half link from the 12 side, and that will be one full link, and that keeps the clasp centralised on the wrist rather than it sitting off centre, too far to the 6 or too far to the 12 side respectively. But one has to be mindful of the fact we have 10.5mm of on-the-fly adjustment, so with the absence of half links you can still get the desired fit with that 10.5 of adjustment, which is good. Now, wrist presence of this piece is fantastic. I'll give you wrist shots of all 4 versions. Of the 4 versions, this Smithsonite version, which is rather like Tiffany blue, is my personal favourite. It looks good from every angle. In terms of comfort level and feel good factor, this is equal to the comfort level and feel good factor of the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41, which I previously owned. The truth is, this looks good and feels good like an Oyster Perpetual 41, or alternatively a Grand Seiko Heritage, which also looks similar to. Now, as I've detailed, I was going to be critical of the use of male end links because female putted end links give a better fit. However, on this occasion, I'm not going to be critical of the male end links. So why is that? And I'll clarify it. This has a compact lug to lug. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, the sweet spots, the perfect lug to lug for all wrist sizes is 48 lug to lug, because a 48mm lug to lug fits a 6 to 7 inch wrist and a 7 to 8 inch wrist perfectly. But this is significantly more compact. It's 45 lug to lug. I'm not going to be critical of it because 45 lug to lug is compact. It is particularly suitable for collectors with a smaller wrist size of 6 to 7 inches. So if you like the wrist presence of a 40mm head of the piece, but you find 48 too long because you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you'll particularly enjoy the fit of this piece because at 45 it is 3mm below the perfect sweet spot 48. When you have a shorter lug to lug which is more compact, such as this 45 lug to lug versus 48, male end links are actually beneficial rather than detrimental because they extend the effective lug to lug slightly longer than the 45 lug to lug of the case. Now, we don't have a very large gap beneath the end link in the oyster style bracelet and the tip of the lug. When I flex the wrist, you can see the gap is minimal. It could be further enhanced with female pivoted end links, that's a given, but I would say female pivoted end links would be more beneficial with a 48 lug to lug. When you have a compact 45, male end links are correct. Now, visually it does actually look more like an Oyster Perpetual 41 as a result, because that also uses male end links versus female pivoted end links. So visually it looks more like an Oyster Perpetual 41 or a Grand Seiko Heritage. But you can see, looks good, feels good. Perfection personified taper, 20 to 16. Beautiful luster to the bracelet, which is Rolex Tudor or Omega level or Grand Seiko level. And the large bevels catch the light, they're visually very aesthetically pleasing, but also the benefit is when the bracelet moves up and down the wrist, it doesn't pull arm hairs, doesn't feel rough, doesn't scratch the wrist. The undercuts to the flanks have these large bevels. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. Truth is, this is as comfortable as a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 or a Grand Seiko Heritage. It feels exactly the same in terms of comfort level and feel good factor. Proportions are fantastic. 45 lug to lug is compact, but it fits well. 20 to 16 taper is perfection personified. Now, as I've detailed, I wanted to talk about this in the wrist shot because you can now see the benefit. This EMS micro adjustment clasp is very low profile. This is the lowest profile, the thinnest micro adjustment clasp I have ever seen on my channel. It's lower profile than a Rolex Glide Lock. It's lower profile than the micro adjustment clasp Christopher Ward are using on the C65, for example. That is thicker. It's more bulky. And of course, it's less bulky and less thick than the micro adjustment clasp that a plethora of micro brands are using, Monta, Trasca, and of course you will all be familiar with the San Martin micro adjustment clasp, which are used by a plethora of brands. They are the standard. They're made in China, and the giveaway is they have two flat head screws in the left and the right hand flanks, and you can tell they're made by the same factory and simply rebranded by the respective brand. This EMS clasp, EMS stands for Eden Micro Adjustment System, is designed in Germany, made in Germany, and you can see just how low profile it is. 5mm, it's lower profile than a Rolex Glide Lock. The width is correct because we have the 20 to 16 perfection personified taper, so it's the correct width. 5mm thick, 10.5 of adjustment is excellent. Beautiful luster to it, nice fine grained satin finishing. The milled stripes are high definition. The Navari emblem is high definition. This is fantastic. Looks good, feels good. No sharp edges to it, no sharp corners. Undercuts to the flanks have been deburred and chamfered. It's just fantastic. This is the best micro adjustment clasp I have reviewed on my channel. This really does undervalue this piece. At €899, one cannot get a better micro adjustment clasp at this price point. It's better than the micro adjustment clasp used by Christopher Ward, better than the micro adjustment clasp used by Monta, better than the micro adjustment clasp used by Trasca, and they are excellent micro adjustment clasps. This is a level above it. This is Rolex level. It's fantastic. And the large bevels on the internals, they really do enhance the comfort level because when it moves up and down the wrist, it doesn't scratch the wrist. They've got it perfected. Looks good, feels good. 2 button push triggers are heavily sprung loaded. Closes with a nice positive click. It's just refined. If I had to choose one word to describe it, it would be refinement. Just fantastic. So I'll give you wrist shots of the other versions. This is the Smithsonite version, which is blue, rather like Tiffany blue. So we also have this version, which is the pistachio, which is green. And one detail I want to explain is, As an alternative to the oyster style bracelets, Navari also offer colour-coded leather straps. So we'll look at the straps in detail because two of these pieces have leather straps, the obsidian black version and this pistachio green version, but I've also got a Tiffany, I should call it Smithsonite, but it reminds me of the Tiffany blue. The Smithsonite blue version, I've also got that, so I'll show you. So, underside is perfectly smooth, it's not textured. Flawless stitching around the perimeter, embossed with genuine leather and also 20 because it's 20mm. Now, good attention to detail because, again, what we're looking at is correct decision after correct decision. Curved spring bars. This is a fundamental that often microbands get wrong. They use straight spring bars and it doesn't work because you have this large apparent gap between the spring bar, the end of the straight end of the strap and the case, which is obviously curved. But by using curved spring bars, you can see the end of the leather strap is now curved. And it means that it closes up the gap one often gets between the case and the spring bar. There is enough clearance for it to articulate without it scuffing the case, but the point is it actually fits the case better. So, underside is perfectly smooth, very soft and supple. So to put how soft and supple this into perspective, this feels like Horween shell cordovan leather, which is the top grade, the very best leather in the world. Horween shell cordovan, which is tanned in Chicago, is fantastic. That's how soft and supple it is. Alternatively, it is as soft and supple as the very best of Hirsch calf leather straps, which are made in Austria. That is how soft it is. Although it's a thick padded strap, it doesn't need any breaking in. This feels very soft and supple. There are enough holes to fit from a 6 up to a 7.5 inch wrist. Size perfectly smooth, nice matte finish to it, and it's very soft and supple. Buckle and tang end is also soft and supple, flawless stitching around the perimeter. Two keepers, one's fixed, one slides as one would expect. Good attention to detail. Buckle and tang, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. Buckle and tang is solid 316L grade stainless steel, engraved with the Navari text logo with high definition engraving. Nice angular profiles to it, and good heavy gauge. Nice large mirror polished bezels, which mark the transition between the brushed satin finish top side and the brushed satin finish angular flanks. High quality finishing to it. Again, this is the kind of finishing one expects with a high tier piece costing €10,000+. Quality of the leather strap is fantastic. So I'll give you a wrist shot of this pistachio green version. Now, I can do up the strap, and as you can see, there is one spare hole, and I can just engage it in the first keeper, but it's a fraction too short for the second keeper. But I'm not going to be critical of it because you can see I can just engage the end of the strap in both keepers. This will fit the majority of wrist sizes from 6 to 7.5 inches. If this were to fit an 8 inch wrist size like mine, it would need to be half an inch longer, but you can see I still have one spare hole and there are enough holes in it to size it down to minimum 6. So 6 to 7.5 is the size. This is the pistachio version, and as you can see, pistachio's strap perfectly matches the colour tone of the dial. Very aesthetically pleasing, gorgeous green tone to the pistachio dial. Matte finish, rather like the Smithsonite blue version, rather than being glossy enamel finish or sunburst finish with a metallic sheen to it. I like it, so I like the matte finish. Quality of the printing to the dial is the same as the Smithsonite version I showed you. Gorgeous green tone to it. So the Eden collection, all 4 colour versions, Obsidian, Sakura, Smithsonite and Pistachio respectively, they are all available with oyster style bracelets, and they're all available with colour coded straps in the respective dial colours. So looks good, feels good. Comfort level of this strap is 10 out of 10. It is equal quality in terms of comfort level and feel good factor. It's equal comfort level to a Horween shell cordovan strap or a Hirsch calf leather strap, the very best. I like the proportions of it. Taper is good, and also proportions of the buckle and tang are correct, and the finishing to the buckle and tang is fantastic. Beautiful mirror polished bezels. Looks good, feels good. So credible alternative to the oyster style bracelet if you prefer leather straps. Nice to see a colour coded calf leather strap. Excellent. Quality of the strap really does match the quality of the head of the piece. Right, so I'll do the same with the other colour versions. We've got this one, which is the Sakura version, which is the pink version. Now, this does have a metallic sheen to it. Now, the dial on this is textured, and it does have a metallic finish. This looks like a Grand Seiko. And in terms of the execution of the textured finish to the Sakura dial, which is of course inspired by cherry blossoms, you can visually see it. This does remind me of a Grand Seiko Heritage. It's got that kind of aesthetic to it. Metallic finish to it, which is different to the others. The Smithsonite Blue and the Pistachio have matte finishes to the dial. They are smooth. This one has a 3D effect to it. And the 3D effect catches the light. When you tilt the piece at an oblique angle like so, you can actually see the textured finish, which is like cherry blossom, catches the light, and it's got a metallic finish to the textured 3D effect to it. So it's a very different finish to the other versions, the Obsidian Black, the Pistachio Green and the Smithsonite Blue. You can see the difference. Absolutely gorgeous. The detailing is fantastic. This really is Grand Seiko level execution with regards to the dial quality. And I really like the silver framing of the date complication, because what they've done with this is it does add interest to it. The silver framing complements the applied indices, but the framing isn't too deep, it's not too thick, therefore it doesn't cast a permanent shadow around the date window. The legibility of the single and the double Arabic numerals is good. So, interesting dial. It's very different to the Obsidian Black, Smithsonite Blue and the Pistachio Green because they are smooth and flat. This one is textured. Nice to have that option. And it's interesting the way the pink dial, the Sakura dial, changes colour depending on the light conditions, from a lighter pink to a darker pink. Really does remind me of a Grand Seiko piece. So good looking, and good to have that alternative if smooth, flat dials aren't to your personal taste. Now lastly, I will show you this one, the Obsidian, which is like a glossy enamel dial used by Grand Seiko on the Heritage pieces, and also this does look like the dial execution on an Oyster Perpetual 41 due to the double applied indices they've used at 12 and 6. Now on the Oyster Perpetual 41 it has double applied indices at 9, 6 and 3 because it doesn't have a date complication. But this does look visually similar. You can see they've used double applied indices at 12 and 6 to balance the dial, 12, 9 and 6. And also we've got smaller double applied indices at 3 to the right of the framed date complication. But visually you can see the similarity. That's the point I'm making. To an Oyster Perpetual 41. The Oyster Perpetual 41 has double applied indices at 9, 6 and 3 with no date complication. This has double applied indices at 12, 9, 6 and 3. But visually the dial layout looks similar to an Oyster Perpetual 41. But the dolphin hands look more like a Grand Seiko dolphin hands. So really what we've got here is a blend between the Oyster Perpetual indices with Grand Seiko dolphin hands versus the baton hands used by Rolex on the Oyster Perpetual 41. Matte finish to it. It's not glossy and shiny like an enamel black dial. I like it. It's smooth. Legibility is fantastic. The silver dolphin hands contrast very well with the black dial. And I like the printing in white of the minute ticks, the Navari text logo and automatic. Often mid-tier microbrands between 500 and 5,000 euro, they make the mistake of over-branding the dial with unnecessary text and specification. For example, 100 meters when the piece isn't a dive piece, it's a daily wear piece. Navari have got it correct. They simply have the Navari text logo and automatic, just the right amount of information. It's not over-branded with unnecessary text. The dial looks clean, looks minimalist, rather like a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 or a Grand Seiko dial, but with less text. We simply have made in Germany, either side of the 6 o'clock double applied indices. This looks good and feels good. Matte calf leather strap, as you can see, is the correct choice rather than a glossy black strap which would suit a dress piece. For a daily wear piece, this is the perfect daily wear piece because you can see 40mm gives nice wrist presence, but because of the compact lug to lug of only 45 versus 48, the sweet spot, this wraps around the wrist very well. Nice snug fit. Tips of the curved lugs don't have a large gap because it's a short case, it's not a long case. And I like the curved spring bars as I've detailed because they close up the gap between the end of the leather strap and also the curved profile of the case. We don't have a straight end strap, straight spring bars and a large gap. This looks fantastic from every angle. Black version, the Obsidian version, is my second choice. I like the Smithsonite, which is the blue version, that's my favourite, but this black Obsidian version is also fantastic looking. Really does remind me of the Oyster Perpetual 41 of the Grand Seiko Heritage. It's like a blend of the two. Leather strap is equal quality and comfort level to Horween Shell Cordovan or Hirsch calf leather straps, which are made in Austria. Fantastic. Soft and supple, doesn't require any breaking in, looks good. The matte black finish complements the dial. It's just a fantastic, great looking piece. The Obsidian Black. Fantastic. So last I'll just show you the Smithsonite blue version leather strap, which is an alternative. So as you can see, same finish and same quality as the pistachio green and the black leather strap. You can see flawless stitching around the perimeter. Stitching is colour coded, it's blue. And you can see underside, genuine leather. This will fit from a 6 to a 7.5 inch. Quick release stainless steel spring bars are the correct choice rather than standard spring bars. That negates the need for a spring bar tool. And what I like about it is you can now see the profile. It's curved spring bars with a curved end to the strap. This closes up the gap to the case rather than straight spring bars. Correct choice after correct choice. I'll show you the other side because good attention to detail. On the buckle and tang side, it's embossed with Navari. So the attention to detail is there. High quality. Two keepers are correctly proportioned. First one's fixed, second one slides as one would expect. And again, good attention to detail because the underside of the buckle and tang is engraved with 316L, which denotes that this is solid 316L grade stainless steel. Finishing is stellar. Large mirror polished bevels to the angular profiling, beautiful lustre to the brush satin finishing, and engraved with high definition engraving with a Navari text logo. Fantastic. So just bear with me. And I will put back on my glove and then continue because I want to test the screw down crown execution. So, solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished. Nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth. Nice mirror polishing to the chamfer. The detailing of this crown is fantastic. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. The crown execution is fantastic. It's engraved with high definition engraving with a Navari emblem, as you can see. Deburred very well, no sharp edges to the engraving. Proportions of the crown are correct. Not too large, but large enough to be grippy and tactile. One can get good purchase with one's index finger and thumb. It's just slightly recessed into the right hand flank, so they've got the recessing correct, they've also got the proportions correct, and the profiling of the coin edge teeth correct. So let's test the execution. 100 metres of hermetic seal is strong specification. Strictly speaking, this could use a push-pull crown with 50 metres. It's a daily wear piece. 100 metres and a screw-down crown is strong specification. Minimal number of turns required to fully unscrew it. So this is powered by the Selita Calibre SW200-1 automatic. So when it's fully unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position. One can manually wind the Calibre SW200-1 to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. Feels smooth to manually wind, doesn't feel rough or gritty. One can feel the tension gradually building up in the main spring. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. Just bear with me, I'll get it. It's fiddly to do with gloves. That's it. So, rotating the crown clockwise advances the quick set date complication. If you look at the silver framed date window at 3, you can see the quick set date clicks over with a nice positive click. In terms of how it feels, there's no discernible difference between an ETA 2824-2 and the SW200-1, which is a clone of the aforementioned. They feel the same. The architecture is identical. The only difference is the SW200-1 has 26 joules versus the ETA 2824-2, which has 25. Feels exactly the same as the P024, which is also a clone of the ETA 2824-2. The single and the double Abric numerals align correctly in the silver frame date window. They're not too far to the left or the right. They're not too high or too low. The clicking sensation feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, and it feels similar to a Miyota 9015 and similar to an ETA 2824-2. It's got that light feeling to it, which feels good, feels reliable, feels robust, nice, loud, audible clicks, feels solid. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movements. If you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the seconds with the Calibre SW200-1 automatic. So we're now in the time setting position. Dolphin hands move smoothly, clockwise and anti-clockwise. They don't feel stiff and they feel smooth rather than rough and gritty. And I like the proportions of the Dolphin hands. The Dolphin hour hand is different sizing to the Dolphin minute hand, which extends nearly to the minute ticks and the indices. So I like the proportions of the Dolphin hands. Visually they look similar to Grand Seiko Dolphin hands, and I like that proportion. For a 40mm head of the piece with this dial diameter, the Dolphin hands look right. They don't look undersized, they don't look too slender, they don't look too short, they are correct. So it feels smooth, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Minimal amount of play when you take up the slack in the gearing. Some slack in the gearing, some back play is mechanically necessary, because if it didn't have the back play in the meshing of the gearing, the teeth, when you push the crown back into the movements, it would cause the winding stem to make the gears jump out of position, and therefore the minute hand would jump out of position. So mechanically there is a need for some backplay in the meshing of the gearing. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again at the characteristic 4 Hz sweep, because it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour. I like the 4 Hz sweep. Often referred to this in my previous reviews because I dislike the 3 Hz sweep of Seiko calibers such as the NH35A, because the second hand stutters or judders around the dial at 3 Hz because it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour. 4 Hz is better because it's a better balance between power reserve and accuracy. 4 Hz is the ultimate, but also 28,800 vibrations per hour gives this nice smooth 4 Hz sweep. The second hand sweeps smoothly rather than stuttering or juddering, therefore it's more aesthetically pleasing. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So 2 rubber O-ring gaskets, 2 hermetic seals. And the 2 rubber O-ring gaskets or hermetic seals provide an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres. So this could use the production cost cutting measure of 50 metres or a push-pull crown. Navari don't do that. This uses a screw down crown and 100 metres. It's strong specification. I like that it's partially recessed into the right hand flank, and that means the crown doesn't project too far proud of the right hand flank. Therefore when you flex the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand, but it's large enough to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. Correctly proportioned, finished to perfection, silky smooth, sublime screw down crown execution. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the applied indices and 5 to 6 layers on the dolphin hands. Now, one has to appreciate, one has to be magnanimous and realistic here. We're not looking at Mercedes hands and we're not looking at snowflake hands. Dolphin hands are slender. They're used on daily wear pieces and dress pieces, and they're used by Grand Seiko. And the problem with dolphin hands, due to their slender profile, is they don't allow for a large area or a large plot as per Mercedes hands or snowflake hands used on dive pieces. So one has to be magnanimous about that. One has to be realistic. This isn't going to perform to the same level as Mercedes hands on a Submariner date. But nonetheless, quality of the application is good. Now in daylight, the white tone on the applied indices and the white tone on the dolphin hands matches perfectly. The hands and the dial do not look more white or cream. They look the same white tone. In the dark, we've also got the same colour tone match. BGW9 looks the same blue tone on the dial and also looks the same tone on the dolphin hands. They've got it correct. This tells me that we've got the same layer, the same number of layers. 5 to 6 layers on the indices, 5 to 6 layers on the dolphin hands, because the potency of the exciter on the indices and the handset is the same brightness level. That's what we're looking at. So BGW9, correct choice. 5 to 6 layers, correct choice, industry standard for good reason. Now what I like about it is the symmetry, because we've got double applied indices at 12, 9, 6 and 3, and even though this does have a silver framed window on the date complication, they've managed to fit in double applied indices to the right of the silver frame around the date complication. So as a result, the symmetry is retained rather than being asymmetrical. We have double applied indices at 12, 9, 6 and 3, albeit the 3 o'clock indices are smaller because of the framing of the date window. But you can see potency is good of the exciter, colour tone match is good, nice blue tone to the BGW9. I really like it. This is fantastic, and I'm pleased to see they haven't used the production cost cutting measure that so many mid-tier microbrands do, between 500 and 5,000 euro, of 3 to 4 layers on the dial and 2 to 3 layers on the handset, for example. This is 5 to 6 on the dial, 5 to 6 on the hands. Stellar performance, it's beautiful. Very impressive. Brightness is good, legibility is good, glowing for a good length of time. The quality of the BGW9 is excellent. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So you will all be familiar with the Sellita Caliber SW200-1. So to remind you, or to clarify, the SW200-1 is available in 4 grades: Standard, Elaborate, Chronometer and Top Grade respectively. The Navari Eden collection, all 4 colour versions, are powered by the standard grade of SW200-1. The SW200-1 is Swiss made, and it's a clone of the ETA 2824-2. It's been in production since 2008, and it's one of Sellita's most produced calibers. So to clarify, Sellita produce in 2024, for example, they produced an incredible 1.5 million calibers. They produced in 2024 an incredible 800,000 SW200-1s. It's just an incredible volume, but nonetheless, regardless of the grade, standard, elaborate, chronometer and top grade, within those 800,000 pieces per annum, no reliability issues reported whatsoever. So therefore, it's been in service or production since 2008. Its reliability is proven beyond question in 2025 because it's had a long production run from 2008 to 2025 and currently at a rate of 800,000 pieces per annum. The reliability, the build quality, quality control are all excellent. Has 26 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which useful complications. Quick set date complication works well, as I've demonstrated. 38-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. So Navari using the standard grade, which is acceptable. Stated accuracy of the standard grade is plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Navari are doing a good job of regulating the SW200-1s they're using. This one is running consistently at plus 5 seconds per day when it's fully wound to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. So regulating in 5 positions is done in Germany, and plus 5 seconds per day is actually within cost chronometer limits of -4 to +6. So excellent. Standard grade is acceptable. The build quality, quality control, accuracy is excellent with the SW200-1. I like it. I like everything about it. You'll know from my previous reviews, it's one of my personal favourite calibers. And although I would prefer to see an elaborate grade used, I think it is acceptable at this price point of €899, the launch price of the Kickstarter campaign, to use a standard grade, providing it's regulated in Germany in 5 positions to chronometer accuracy of +5. So although the stated accuracy is plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30, in reality, Navari are regulating to better than that in 5 positions. +5 is excellent. So, excellent choice of caliber, made in Germany piece with a Swiss-made caliber. So, last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, as I've detailed, the Kickstarter campaign launches on the 31st of August. The early bird launch price will be €899, which is $999 respectively. Yes, this is unquestionably excellent quality, and yes, it is unquestionably excellent value at €899. I have reviewed over 500 watches on my channel, and this Navari Eden perfectly captures the essence of champagne watch for lemonade money. It is stellar. Are there any negatives to it? None whatsoever. There is nothing about this piece I would change, and that is very unusual. When I review a piece, regardless of the price point, when I review a piece on my channel, often there is something I would change, a negative, a QC issue, something I would change about the dimensions. This is the perfect daily wear piece. I like all 4 colour options, but as I've detailed, this Smithsonite blue version, which is like Tiffany blue, is my personal favourite. The feel-good factor and the comfort level of this piece is stellar. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. To put this into perspective, there are 2 things I like about this above all else. This is only 9.9mm thick, which is incredible for an SW200-1. The other thing I like about it above all else is the clasp. The EMS micro adjustment clasp is only 5mm. This is the best micro adjustment clasp I have seen in over 500 watches. Better than Christopher Ward, better than Monta, better than Trasker, which are excellent micro adjustment clasps. This is the best of them all. 5mm. Very low profile, but 10.5 thick, 10.5 adjustment. This is fantastic. Above all else, how thin this piece is at 9.9. The SW200-1, made in Germany, plus EMS micro adjustment clasp. They fully justify this piece. This is undervalued at €899. It is the very best champagne watch for lemonade money at €899. I'm going to highly recommend it to your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Navari Eden collection. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.